All right, folks, I'm back from my 2 week absence. Sorry for being gone for so long, but dude, the Saints were sucking absolute ass, and like we had the busiest work week in my shop's history. So there was literally I was trying to figure out if I wanted to make videos or go to sleep, and the Saints were literally giving me no reason not to go to sleep. But I'm not trying to be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna flake out when the Saints are losing, but you have to prioritize shit sometimes, and I needed the sleep. So, but we were back today. We watched the Saints play the Raiders in New Orleans. Really good game here, dude. The Saints won 24-0. Anytime you pitch a shutout, no matter how many points you put up offensively, there's something to be happy about. Alvin Kamara showed us, proved something to us today. With his allegations of beating the shit out of somebody in Las Vegas, he did that twice today by putting up 3 scores against the Las Vegas Raiders. So he has solidified to everybody that he's really good at beating up people from Vegas. So I'm watching the Panthers and Falcons play right now, and that's another interesting thing that we need to look at today, because if the Panthers win this game, the entire NFC South is tied at 3-5. The Panthers will have that lead because they're 3-0 in the division. Somehow, every game they've won has been divisional if they win this game. They've beaten the Falcons, Buccaneers, and the Saints if they win this one. So the whole NFC South will be tied at 3-5. And the Saints, just like that, are right back in the mix for a division title. So let's talk about this game. The Saints won 24-0. 2 players specifically caught my eye big time today, and I'm sure it's the same 2 players that caught everybody's eye today, and that is Alvin Kamara and Alontae Taylor Jr. Alontae Taylor it's getting interesting. Alontae Taylor had a great game. He was playing against Davante Adams, and there was multiple moments where he just absolutely bitched Davante Adams. Like, I'm putting it on the thumbnail of him bitching Davante Adams and then proceeding to stand over Davante Adams, and everybody was like, whoa, you don't do that to one of the best wide receivers in the league. There's a chance he comes back and absolutely destroys you afterwards. And no, Alontae Taylor held his own and allowed basically nothing for the entirety of this game. The entire defense, though, in my opinion, other than Kamara, is the highlight of this game. Up until like a minute and 30 seconds left in this game, the Raiders never crossed midfield. Like, not once. Everybody was on it. Peyton Turner had 2 sacks. Cameron Jordan had himself a sack. They were just absolutely balling out. The defensive line looked legit today. Marcus Davenport was applying pressure. David Onyemata got his first sack of the season before hobbling off, but the defensive line looked great. The secondary looks really good, too, without Marshawn Lattimore against a Las Vegas Raiders offense that has not been bad this year. The Raiders have lost every single game this year by 1 score or less up until today. And they just came off of an absolute beating of the Houston Texans, 38-20. They lost to the Chargers by 5 points. They lost to the Cardinals in overtime by 6 points. They lost to the Titans by 2 points. They beat the Broncos and then lost to the Chiefs by 1 point. So this Raiders team is nothing to sneeze at, and we just beat the shit out of them 24-0. So if you were looking for a game for the New Orleans Saints to dress up as their Halloween costume, being the 2018 New Orleans Saints, this is the game that you got. They absolutely put a nail in the Raiders' coffin, and have made things interesting in the NFC South. So let's talk about some other players other than Alontae Taylor in the defense that all played great. Andy Dalton had a very efficient game. He threw those 3 interceptions against the Cardinals last week. 2 pick sixes before the half, whatever. That shit was stupid. I don't care. It wasn't like a red flag for me. I didn't really think that it was like the end-all, be-all of Andy Dalton, but whatever. Andy Dalton threw 30 passes today, completed 22 of them, 229 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, no picks, nothing like that. And that was the biggest thing for today. We did not turn the ball over offensively, and the offensive line played phenomenally. Andy Dalton was getting the ball out fast and making good, quick decisions, and that's what you want to see from your veteran quarterback. And, dude, I'm going to be honest, I don't think Jameis Winston is touching the field anytime soon. I think Dennis Allen has seen a lot of good with Andy Dalton, and I just don't think Jameis Winston is getting the nod at any point for the rest of the season. Don't quote me. I'm not an actual reporter, but that's just my thoughts on it. Alvin Kamara had an absolute humongous game. This was a vintage Alvin Kamara game, one that people have been waiting for a really long time. He had 18 attempts, 62 yards, and a rushing touchdown, and that is just his rushing stats. He came into this week with no touchdowns on the season, had a rushing touchdown, and then boom. Don't forget, he's a dual threat running back. He had 10 targets, 9 receptions, 96 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, dude. If you played against Alvin Kamara in fantasy this week, odds are you lost. I know that because I played against Alvin Kamara in fantasy this week, and I definitely lost. So prayers out to anybody that didn't get to draft Alvin Kamara this year. But yeah, man, just an all-out amazing showing by the Saints. This is what we've been waiting for. This is that game where you're like, okay, we got momentum. We look like the New Orleans Saints of old. We played Saints football. We ran the ball well, threw when we needed to, played great defense. That's Saints football. And, this is getting interesting. Oh, my God. Drake London. That's not Drake London, but the Falcons did just score. Damiere Byrd scored a huge touchdown. So I'll update the standings in the comment section, but sorry for getting distracted. The game's on. Great showing by the offense. Great showing by the defense. Like I said, complimentary New Orleans Saints football. I liked how the Saints involved Rashid Shaheed more in this game plan as well. Just all in all, a great showing by the Saints and great play calling by Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen. They really wanted to get Alvin Kamara involved. They gave Andy Dalton plenty of avenues and plenty of plays to spread the ball around, and that was the difference maker here, not focusing in on one target. Like Alvin Kamara led the game in receiving. We already talked about his receiving stats, but Chris Olave also had 5 receptions for 52 yards. Rashid Shaheed had 3 receptions for 38 yards. Juwan Johnson had some receptions. Taysom Hill, Marquez Callaway, Nick Vannett, Mark Ingram. Those are all players that had receptions. So, like I said, really good at spreading the ball around today, and I'm just very happy with the outcome. This is a product of good New Orleans Saints football. Will Lutz missed a field goal. I mean, I don't think it's really time to have a conversation about him yet, but he is now 12 for like 19 on the season and has not looked like the Will Lutz of old. So take with that what you will. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm sure we'll see a lot about that in the media, or in Saints media on Twitter this week. So pay attention to that. Pete Werner, another great game. Paulson Adebo played pretty well. Peyton Turner, this is the game Peyton Turner needed. Those 2 sacks, dude, his confidence, I know, is just through the roof. And when you're a young player that's doubted by your coaching staff and your entire fan base, a game like that is exactly what you need to get things going. And Peyton Turner is trying to show everybody that he's worth the first-round pick. So I'm happy with the outcome. I'm sure you guys all are. We play the Baltimore Ravens next week, and that game is going to be something different. You guys all know how we struggle against dual-threat quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is the dual-threat quarterback. He is literally the best rushing quarterback in the league and one of the best rushing quarterbacks we've seen in this league in a very long time. The Ravens are 5-3, just beat the Buccaneers. They get a good bit of rest, and we play them in New Orleans. Hopefully we'll have players like Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Marshawn Lattimore back for such a premier game. It's Monday Night Football, prime time. We'll just have to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. The Saints won, so enjoy the rest of your victory Sunday. I'll see you boys in the next one. Adios.